Hey, good morning, everybody. Hope you are doing well and having a great week. Let me ask you this. You ever wonder if you need to be rich, famous, or accredited just to start investing in real estate? Well, spoiler alert for you, but you don't need to be. You just need to understand syndications and multifamily apartments and how they actually work. Hey, welcome to the Mic Drop Show, where we talk real estate, real freedom, and real results. I'm your host, Mike Morawski, and the multifamily bounce back coach, investor, educator, and your go to guide through the wild world of multifamily investing. Super excited this morning. Today's guest, K. Trevor Thompson. He's the VP of Investor Engagement at Massive Capital and someone who's walked the full path from limited partner to general partner. With over 30 syndication deals under his belt, he's on a mission to help 100,000 people reach financial independence through real estate investing. Holy cow, are we going to learn a lot this morning, you guys? Hey, if multifamily sounds interesting, but you're not sure where to start, this episode's going to be your blueprint. So make sure you follow me. You hit the subscribe button. You drop your questions or comments in the DM or DM me, and we're going to get those answered for you. We're pulling questions straight from the community, and yours might be the next one. This is your your weekly wealth workout. Let me bring Trevor in. Trevor, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. How are you, sir?
I'm awesome. It's good to see you.
Good to see
Hey,
you.
where are you this morning in the world?
Austin, Texas. That's my hometown. So it's where I live now.
Great. So you're at home. I know you travel a lot like I do, so you get
Yeah, I
around.
did. I've slowed down a lot, though. It's probably why we haven't seen each other in a little while. But I was going to so many events. I just had to take a step back. So
Yeah, yeah. I found that last year too. I went to a lot of events, and I'm living in Southern California, and am co-hosting a meetup in Vegas. So I'm here, every couple of months for sure. Like tonight, I have a great speaker at the event, so looking forward to that. But sometimes you have to do that. Just step back a little bit and play
yeah,
offense a little more. So.
yeah. And I've been to Vegas a couple of times speaking at those events. So I think that was before you became the co-host. I think yeah. So it's an awesome event, though. Awesome group.
Yeah, great people. Hey, Trevor, so let's tell the audience a little bit more about you, what you do, what your role is with Massive Capital, and how you guys are doing these days.
Yeah, so a little bit about me. I'm originally from Niagara Falls, Canada. I was always interested in real estate, but I was terrified of toilets, tenants, and trash. So I didn't want to do the single family space. I always thought you had to be a millionaire to be able to invest in commercial real estate. And I got fortunate to get a payday. I worked for iFly Indoor Skydiving. We got bought out. I got a payday, and I said, okay, that's it. I need to learn. And I actually was until I went to my third weekend training. We all go to these weekend trainings where
Right.
somebody mentioned multifamily syndication. And I got to tell you, I went, where have you been my whole life? This is exactly what I'm looking for. I can give my money to experienced operators. They can do all of the work, but I actually own a piece of a real asset. I get all of the benefits. And obviously, at 33 syndications, you could call me hooked. I've been passive on 20 and a general partner now on 13. And it's just, I was shocked I didn't know about it.
Yeah. Hey, let me ask you this though. Did it actually take 33 syndications to get you hooked, or were you hooked from the beginning?
I was very nervous my first couple. I'm not gonna lie, kind of, because again, it was so unique. I just didn't know how can I be 58 years old and not know this exists. And here I'm pulling money out of the stock market, which even though there's no, we all know it's not the best place to put your money. We all know there's volatility, and you don't really own any real assets. But once I got my first couple of deals, I was hooked.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I made that transition from residential real estate into the apartment business after being in residential for about 13 years. And boy, I'll tell you, got right in my DNA, and I absolutely love the business. People say, "Why don't you go do something else?" I said, "Cause I don't know how to do anything else." We're going to talk a lot about raising capital here this morning and how that's going in the world today. But for the average person to get involved as a passive investor or even as an active investor, do you have to be accredited? And why don't you take a quick second too and explain to the listeners what the difference between accredited and non-accredited is?
Yeah, so an accredited investor is someone who has a net worth of more than $1 million, excluding their home, or they make 200,000 as single or 300,000 as a family. And it used to be in the past that only accredited investors could get into these, what I'm going to call it, traditional in syndication groups, right? It was not available for non-accredited investors. And then they made some changes and they put this thing called 506B. There are some rules and regulations. You must have a pre-existing relationship, which is why you need to get to know your syndicator anyways. You want that anyways. You have to become sophisticated, which means you're listening to Mike shows, you're joining his summits, you're doing different things to get educated. And that's a big mission of mine, to help educate people. And then you can invest as a non-accredited investor, assuming you meet the criteria of the relationship.
Yeah. So how are you educating people? I mean, I think your mission of educating 100,000 people is awesome, helping
Yeah.
them create financial wealth. But what are you doing to educate people today?
So we were for 2 years in a row every Wednesday night doing webinars, where we were actually doing webinars and talking about real estate investing, and we built up a very large database, almost 14,000 people between all of the partners and all of our contacts. And so we're constantly doing it. We've switched it now to every other Tuesday, but again, it's geared at helping the average person learn about how they can get involved in the commercial real estate, should they be looking for, and help them do it. I'm also part of another real estate group. Then that group is mostly geared towards single family, but they have a lot of folks that want to also start passively investing. So that group has about 4,000 members. So I do a weekly coaching call. I go to we I'm in Austin, but they have events in Dallas, Houston, and San Antonio, and I'm constantly going to events, and I'm just spending about an hour talking to people about passive investing. So it's become a real mission, and in fact, my goal was 10,000 people, and the current leader of that group, and who's my original mentor, said with all the things we're doing, we're switching Trevor's goal to 100,000
Okay.
people. And then I also, the second someone in your team said, would you get on and talk to Mike? Would you join Mike's summit? My answer is yes, always yes, because I know your mission and my mission are aligned. And
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I want to align myself with people that are educating people. I mean, you're always putting lots of messages out there, doing lots of events, hosting meetups. And so that's how I'm doing it. I'm just constantly out there trying to talk with people and being reachable.
Yeah, it's funny. A lot of people that I coach ask, how do I raise money, right? And I always tell them that the best way is belly to belly. You
Yeah.
know, you and I met maybe what 4 years ago.
Yeah.
We met, right at the end of COVID, and we connected on LinkedIn, I think, and had that initial conversation, and then we've seen each other at events, and we've
Yeah.
continued to build that relationship. And that's what this business is. It's about relationships, because you
It
never
is.
know who's going to cross your path, and that belly to belly effect and meeting people. I always call it, hey, shaking hands and kissing babies, right?
That's it. Yeah.
Just like the politicians do. So hey, one question that I had from a listener this week was asking, hey, if I invest in one of these multifamily syndications, when do I see my money back?
Yes. So of course, every deal has its nuances, and there is cash flow in multifamily syndication. Not quite as good as it was a few years ago, but there is cash flow. And again, you make the majority of your profits on the sale of the asset. So Again, that's the timeline. But in general, the goal is to double your money every 5 years. And then, of course, we all know there's a lot of tax advantages in investing in it. So there's different ways that depends what you are in your life, how you can use the tax benefits. But it is the most tax efficient way to grow your wealth.
Yep. So, kind of a follow-up question to that. I had another question from a listener from last week who sent me an email and said, "What the hell is a syndication?"
Yeah.
So, um, can you explain that?
Yeah, so a syndication is basically where a group of experienced real estate investors, they will find an asset, they will buy an asset, they will arrange the debt for the asset, so they'll get some sort of financing for it. Then they'll put together a business plan. What are they going to do? How are they going to force appreciation? How are they going to make it more valuable? Then they'll take investor money, and so let's say, for example, you're buying a $10 million apartment. You may raise $3 or $4 million depending on your debt and what you need to do in the apartment. And the crazy thing that most people don't understand is the passive investors own the majority of the asset. Most of our deals are a 70-30 split. I think yours are very similar.
Yeah.
And so you think about this as a passive investor, I own a portion and I own, the passive investors own the largest portion of that asset, which
Right.
is really incredible.
Yeah. I always tell people, hey, as a passive investor, you get the lion's portion of the returns.
Yeah,
You get the lion's portion. We do all the work. Like, I love what you said in the beginning. We take care of the tenants, trash, and toilets.
yeah,
And, the investor gets to walk to their mailbox once a quarter, once a month, twice a year and grab a check, right?
yeah,
So,
yeah,
syndications are just that whole grouping of people coming together in the same common goal to buy this asset that
yeah.
everybody benefits from. So, interesting. What's funny, and it kind of made me think about a webinar I did yesterday. And I did a webinar yesterday with a couple of other capital raisers, and we were talking about the S&P being so high today and how that's creating almost a bubble effect. And what do you see happening in the market? Why is today, or better yet, is today a good time to start investing in passively in real estate, or should people continue to reap some of these rewards from traditional stock and bond investing?
Yeah, so I actually think that right now and the next probably year or so is going to be one of the biggest buying opportunities of my lifetime. Okay, so again, we don't like to scare people too much, but there is distress in the marketplace. There is a lot of properties now where the prices come down to what is reasonable for today's economy. Again, our last property we purchased, it was over $20 million and we bought it for $17 million. And again, that's because we bought it right at the right time. We were able to do it. And you can do those types of things. So I actually think right now is the best time to buy real estate, right? Because I think there's going to be these big opportunities. And another thing that's absolutely mind boggling, I actually just did my webinar last night and I looked up a lot of research. The delta between rent and home ownership has never been greater. It has increased 38% against buying a house. So it used to be, you could get a mortgage, you could get an apartment for $1,200 and you could get a mortgage for $1,300. Not anymore. You're getting, I think the average rent on this whole thing was about $1,600 and the average mortgage payment for a house was over $2,800. So unfortunately for some folks in America, buying a house is now out of reach. They're going to be lifelong renters, and that provides a huge opportunity for us to be able to give them a quality place to live and a place that they can feel comfortable in, their family can be safe in. Because again, we're normally buying apartment complexes, making them nicer, making them better places to live, turning them into communities. And I know it's your mission, right? To make sure
Yeah.
that you have, because again, great residents pay their rent, they don't move out, and they refer their friends.
Yeah.
And So we're creating this kind of win-win environment because again, it's tough because housing prices have gone up, interest rates have gone up. There may be some adjustments still coming, but there has never been a greater demand for renters.
Yeah, 100%. And Trevor, I like what you said about mission. Two of my missions in life are to provide safe and secure housing. So we buy some of the crummiest assets out there you can find, right?
Yeah,
And we go in, we renovate those, we rehab them, we increase the value because we put a different tenant base in there, we raise the rents, and we make those deals more profitable.
yeah,
But along the way, we're providing safe and secure housing for our tenants. And I'm also being a good steward for our investors'
yeah,
invested dollars in
yeah,
order to help them see those returns. And you know what? This is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And so
yeah,
what we might not see day one, you got to look at, you know,
yeah.
5 years down the road. So,
Yeah. And I always
yeah,
say real estate, especially passive investing, is not a get rich quick. It's a get richer slow.
right,
It's
right.
a get richer slow. Because it's not get rich quick. And most of these deals are 5 years. Most of these deals will double your money. But the power of that is, so let's say somebody did invest 100,000 with you, you doubled their money to two, then they reinvested two, they're going to double it to four. Four goes to eight, eight goes to 1.6 million. So in theory, if you always doubled and had no taxes, $100,000 investment in 25 years grows to over $3 million in your lifetime of keeping that money invested. Um, that's a get very rich slow. I'm talking 25-year game plan here.
Yeah.
And that's why you need to start doing this as early as you can.
Yeah, I love that. I love that theology around that. Hey, listen, as we start to land the plane here this morning, super excited about October this year. It'll be my sixth annual multifamily summit that I've done. My live virtual event, 2 days, 20 great speakers and panelists. You're included in that. What
Yeah.
are you going to be talking about at the summit this year?
I like to talk just again about how you can create financial freedom for your family. What do you need to do? And then if you're on the sponsorship side and that's who's attending the summit, how can you help people, right? That's again, I created this mission. My mission is more to help people learn about this so that they can help others create financial freedom. Again, I don't assume I'm going to everybody that talks with me is going to invest with me. That's not my assumption. My assumption is I want to help those who are looking to do deals to learn how to do a better job of that. And I want to also make sure that the general public understands this power of passive investing. Again, I didn't really hear about it until I was 58 years old. I want
Yeah.
people to find out at 18 years old and start their journey.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to you being there this year. Got a great lineup of speakers. Hunter Thompson is there this year, and Brad Sumrock is there this year, and whole host of others. So I just want listeners to pay attention. Whether you're a current active GP investor, this will be a place for you to come and get a couple golden nuggets to help you level up a little bit, or whether you are a passive investor in the business, thinking of getting in the business, looking for a sponsor, this will be a place to be for that as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's super
super excited.
important for people to show up and learn. Again, I've been doing this for a long time, done a lot of deals. I never stop learning, and your listeners shouldn't either.
Yeah, that's so true. You never stop learning. And you and I talked about it at the beginning, right? We go to a lot of events,
Yeah,
and we go to these conventions and conferences and seminars because we want to learn.
yeah,
What's that one nugget you can walk away from? And hopefully somebody this morning's walking away with a nugget.
yeah.
Trevor, what are you working on these days?
So we've switched a little bit, and we've started doing some new build retail
Okay.
and industrial. Again, it's just kind of what's been happening. It's been a little harder to find the multifamily deals. So we partnered up with a company. So we're building a pretty large 62,000 square foot new build lifestyle retail in Houston. We're doing a couple of industrial developments where they have, and it's more business to business retail in the front and then warehousing in the back. And again, I live in the great state of Texas, and there's so much people coming here. It's created this big demand, right? So again, where our retail development is, it's a whole new community. 1,600 homes, 300 apartments, a school, community center, and they need these services. And so we've switched and started doing a little bit of that, but we're never going to walk away from our true love, which is multifamily. But it's just, having some variety has turned out to be useful for us.
Yeah, I think that has kind of happened to a lot of
It
operators today, right? Is not just multifamily, but let's do some other asset classes
Yeah,
too. So, and I think that's smart math, right? That's that diversification.
yeah,
So whether you've got a little bit in stocks and bonds and a little bit in passive investing and alternative investments, or whether you're an operator and you're doing multifamily or doing some light industrial, both ways work really well. So.
yeah, yeah.
Hey, super excited to have you on this morning. Why don't you tell people how they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so the easiest way to reach me is on LinkedIn. You just have to remember the K. My legal name is Keith, which is why the K is there, but I was never called it. So just look me up on LinkedIn, K Trevor Thompson. I always accept invites. I'm always happy to connect and help people. My goal is to post useful information. I always promote events that I'm going to, so that you'll find out what's happening. And again, I'm super excited about this. Your team reached out to me, and it was like an instantaneous yes, because
Uh,
again, I know you work really hard to bring a lot of value to the community, and nobody should ever forget that your network is your net worth. And your network, even though I like meeting people in person, these virtual conferences are super powerful because they put 50 to 100 people on your computer that
yeah,
you can learn from, you can connect with. And sometimes that's hard to do on an in-person meeting.
yeah, for sure. All right. Well, hey, super appreciate you being here. If you want to hang on for a minute in the back
Yep.
room, I'm going to land this plane and then we'll say goodbye.
Awesome.
Hey, everybody. What a great show. I am super excited. And that's this week's episode of the Mic Drop Show. Trevor Thompson was my guest, giving us a really clear breakdown of what multifamily syndication actually is. Whether you are an operator or whether you're a passive investor, you need to get involved. And the one thing that he said this morning that just really resonated is that this is going to be one of the greatest times in history in his lifetime, he said. But this, we always look for those opportunities to get in or to get involved before the bull run, to have the wind at your back. And we are entering one of the greatest times in history to invest in real estate. So, hey, if you're walking away this morning with some clarity, maybe a little strategy, or even just a little more confidence to take that first step, my mission's been accomplished. So remember, wealth doesn't happen by accident. It happens by design and by you taking action. And that's what I always work with my people in my coaching program is taking action, holding them accountable to that action. So whether you're just dipping your toe in the water or you're ready to get going, remember, you don't need to be a millionaire. You just need to get in the room where the deals are happening. And speaking of rooms, Trevor Thompson again is going to be hitting the stage at the Multifamily Summit in October this year. If you are somebody who wants to come, send us a message. We'll get you an early bird special. He's going to be talking about what is multifamily and a perfect primer for anybody who's ready to move forward into action. So if you got value today, smash the like button, follow those, subscribe to our platform. We're always bringing you great content, great guests, helping educate you, giving you those nuggets to level up. And remember, our biggest sponsor of this show is Sync VA. So if you are somebody out there looking for a VA for your business, somebody who can help your business grow, whether you need a transaction coordinator, whether you need somebody on your property management team, whether you need an executive assistant, Sync VA is your home to help you grow your personal business or keep your life and your calendar in order. So reach out to Sync VA. Remember, you have questions, comments, anything you need, Don't hesitate to reach out. We'll be here same time next week, same energy. But until then, stay focused, stay cash flowing, and keep stacking those deals.